Welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings podcast with Ken Smyers and Eric Stromquist. Control news you can use. And now, here's your hosts, Ken and Eric.
Hi, and welcome to Control Talk Now for the week ending October 12th, 2014. This is your host, Eric Stromquist, and I am joined, as usual, by the man, the myth, the legend, the California kid, Kenny Smyers. Kenny, welcome back to Pittsburgh, and man, you've had a big week, huh?
Oh, yes, sure have, Eric, and I'm glad to be back. It was a great time, a great wedding. Congratulations again to my daughter, Sabrina, and her husband, Brendan O'Mahony. They were married last Saturday, and it was a beautiful wedding, beautiful reception, and California is a beautiful state. And I tell you, no wonder so many people go out there and don't come back, because it just was 85, 88 every day, wouldn't let up. It was the prettiest beach sites, the Del Mar, San Diego, Carlsbad area. We just traveled between those 3 points constantly in the procession of the events. So it was just a beautiful place. So I was very happy to successfully complete all those father requirements, because I'm not a great public speaker, but I've seen my share of microphones, and you get up in front of a reception with a bunch of really important people, family people, and just hope everything comes out right, because it's being recorded now. Now the stuff goes out on the internet, and that's another lesson we learned too. Once you say it, it's gone, baby. It's out there in cyber world, and you can't retrieve it. So,
well, it is, Kenny, and I tell you what, it's a little bit like, I think the original idea for the TV show Survivor was not putting a bunch of people on an island, but was following the father of the bride around. I tell you, if you can survive that, that is what we call high stress, no win type situations, right? You have to really keep your head about you. And of course, it's a big day, but that's probably for, a lot of ladies, one of the biggest days in their lives is their marriages. I know it was for you and Rita too.
Sure.
But hey, you survived it, dude. You made it back. I'm looking at you now on camera, and you're all in one piece. I'm pretty damn impressed, Kenny, that you made it through. So listen, just real quick, maybe our smart building tip of the day might be for any fathers out there who have daughters that are getting near marrying age, which my daughter Britt is. Any advice on how to survive the experience called your daughter's marriage?
Well,
your daughter's wedding, I should say.
Well, yeah. Well, there's some events before that. There's the bridal shower. The best thing to do, Eric, is to stay. We same thing. We dealt with nuclear fallout. Distance and shield. Stay as far away as you can, and take good cover. Because I'm just kidding. It's primary, like you said. It's the most important day that I can ever say in our family, and it's just everything I thought was a good comment wasn't. I was never on target. Just my wife and my daughters did a great job, and their bridal party was super. All the friends, and they're in their late 20s, so they just got a whole different view of the world. And our version of it is quite it's antiquated in their opinion. So the music, the this, the that, the whatever. So you just kind of let them, you roll with the punches, and when it's your turn, make sure you're prepared and let it go.
A good friend of mine's daughter's wedding here about 4 or 5 years ago, and you talk about the music, and I tell you what, it's a whole different experience. I mean, I think you told us last week that the father-daughter dance was My Girl, which I think most people that we know can relate to that. But some of the music is it's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the DJ did a great job, because he took everybody's favorites. He took a couple of. When you give the song to the DJ that you want to dance to. So he went through the genres from the 50s, 60s, 70s, but we ended up at some new music that I wasn't familiar with, and we tried to stay current. But there's some neat stuff going on here for the younger folks, and they had a great time. So, like I say, it was very interesting in retrospect. And I'll tell you what, not to sour the good emotional stream we're in, but we have to go right from a wedding to a funeral. My grandmother was 105. She passed away on Friday last week. So we're going on both ends of the meter here, because it's a very sad, emotional period in the family. And in fact, we're going to prepare ourselves for all that stuff coming up. So,
Well, yeah, I tell you what, Kenny, condolences to you, your grandmother, the matriarch or the Smyers family. I guess if you give us a quick history, if you would, on the Smyers family. It's kind of fascinating because she was actually married to Edward C. Smyers, right? Your grandfather. Is that where the Smyers company got started?
love to her. My grandmother was born in 1908 in Lawrenceville, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She married my grandfather, and they had 4 children. Left quite a legacy behind with 4 children that are still surviving. My father Ed, my aunt Virginia, and Barbara. 23 grandchildren, 56 great grandchildren, and 20 great great grandchildren. And yeah, she's seen just a tremendous part of the world. She was very a woman of faith. She enjoyed her weekly visits to Sunday Mass, and then they had a ritual. They would go to Wendy's and have lunch. And yeah, we'll miss her. It's a pretty sad day, and the funeral's tomorrow.
Well, condolences, Kenny. And wow. Okay, well, 105, a great life there. And I tell you what, Kenny, let's just move on. Let's get into the show. Who is our sponsor this week?
Eric, our sponsor this week is Contemporary Controls. Quite a interesting story about Contemporary Controls. They're growing. They're on the move. They're worldwide, global. Contemporary Controls designs and manufactures the systems building blocks for networking, integrating, and controlling automation processes where performance and reliability are important. And most of us know Contemporary Controls for their BACnet routers, and also now their security, their Scorpion router. So the background, George Thomas entered Contemporary. He established Contemporary Controls in 1975 as a systems integration and consulting business, focusing on microcomputer and PLC applications. Right now, they have just a tremendous business, a growing business, and Contemporary Controls develops, manufactures, and markets innovative networking and control products to the benefit of our automation customers worldwide. We are committed to delivering products and services that meet the customer requirements and strive to exceed their expectations through our continued improvement efforts.
Well, I'll tell you what, George Thomas, we talk about him a lot on the show as well as we do Contemporary Controls. We think George Thomas is one of the smartest guys in our industry. They do make great products, like you said, Kenny. They are platinum sponsors this year. They're up for several awards. So if you haven't gone through the nomination process yet, the ballot is right there on controltrends.org. Click on it. Nominate your favorites. The nomination period is going to end here in about 2 weeks, so you still have time. We do require getting your email information so that we can make sure somebody's not stuffing the ballot box, but we will not share that information with anyone. As a matter of fact, that will get you an automatic final voting ballot when the finals come out. So the way the process works again is we're in the nomination phase, Kenny. We will take the top 5 or 6 for each category. They will become the finalists for the 2014 Control Trends Awards. And of course, George Thomas, Contemporary Controls are all up on the nomination ballot. So take a minute, nominate your favorite, and hey, send that link out to your network. The more the merrier here. We got people from all over the world that are voting on this. So just take a minute and let's honor the great people, products, and companies in our industry. All right, Kenny Smyers, let's get into the week that was. What do we have up first?
Well, you said worldwide, and you just strummed another thought that I wanted to make sure I said. Good luck to Ali Risk from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She's playing in the final at the Tianjin China tennis WTA event in China. She's in the final right now as we speak. Good luck, Ali Risk from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Good luck, Ali Risk, as she goes over to China and plays a little bit of tennis over there. You guys got quite the tennis players coming out of Pittsburgh, Kenny. But I know both your daughters played at a very competitive level. So, well, good luck to Ali.
Ali was yes. All right, Eric. So we're shifting gears. We're going to our first post of the week. Farewell and happy retirement to Mr. Pat Marley. Pat ended a 24-year career with Stromquist. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Pat and his new journey?
Well, I'll tell you what, Pat is one of the consummate controls professionals. Stromquist & Company had the pleasure of Pat working with us for 24 years, Kenny, 24 years of great service. Our customers are going to miss Pat. He was fantastic. Before that, Pat worked for Modern Control, and he might have been Tim Paco before that, but Pat's been in the controls industry over 40 years. He's going to take some time and enjoy his life. I think he's going to be doing some traveling. But Pat, thank you so much for a great service. I think I can speak on behalf of all the employees at Stromquist & Company and all of the Stromquist customers that have had the pleasure of working with you over the past 24 years. You did it right. We appreciate you. Have a great retirement.
That's a very nice touch, Eric. And good luck to you, Pat. All right, moving on, we have where is Google Nest going? Google invests $145 million in an 82 megawatt Sun Edison project and has funded over $1.5 billion worth of renewable energy projects in 3 continents. Now, I'll start this off, but I sure hope we can remember some of the important connections that we were making probably about a year ago when we were trying to track everything down with the ADR, with the power generation, with the Nest thermostat, with the automated demand response, and what a leading role Nest had. Now go buy them, and now Google's getting into the power generation end of it. So I wonder what type of stats will be used on Google's customers' residences and commercial buildings.
Well, I don't know, Kenny, but my guess is it's probably going to be Nest. They probably bought it for a reason, so I think the smart money could be on Nest there. It was interesting, Kenny. It reminds me when we were covering Ibicon Realcomm for Jim Young and Howard Berger that on stage, and we actually have a post a little bit later in the week from Cisco, but he had Nino DeCosmo, Rick Huberek from Cisco, and a gentleman from Google. His name escapes me now, and the guy from Google made a very interesting comment. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he sort of said, "Hey, we don't want to take over the whole world, just the parts we want." So
he said, "We don't want to take over your whole market, just a good share of it, or just a good part of it."
Yeah.
So I mean, that was pretty clever. You're right. And Daryl Smith was on it.
Yeah, it was great, and Anand from Yardi as well. So very fascinating stuff, Kenny. We'll talk a little bit more about Cortex that's coming up with Jim Young and Howard Berger, what they got planned. But yeah, this is something we'll definitely be tracking. I mean, I tell you what, if you can't win at a certain level, just up the game, right? So we'll buy the power plant, and we'll provide the power, and along the way you get a thermostat.
Well, this is exactly, but I mean, this is just beyond comprehension at some point because it was just so obvious and there, and just they made the big moves. But basically, what they're doing is they're getting into power generation, and if you provide it at one end of it, you certainly can control the consumer goods at the other end of it. So, but once operational, this plant's supposed to generate enough power enough energy to power over 10,000 homes with CO2 reductions equivalent to not burning 125 million pounds of coal annually. And additionally, the 1.5 billion in renewable energy investments across 3 continents with a total planned capacity of 2.5 gigawatts. You don't hear gigawatts except for Back to the Future, in sentences, but I'm just very impressed with Google. I hope they do well. I know the steel industry, back when U.S. Steel was the magnet and just running the world's steel, are producing a lot of it. They're probably over 50% of the world's steel around the world. They started to venture into oil, and they lost a whole lot of money in their investments. And I wonder if Google could possibly do something like that, because now, if you start establishing investments and you have to produce earnings, what do you do with are you going to have on one hand, you can certainly generate a lot of green measures, reduce CO2, but then also you're going to have to get a return on your investments, and that starts to get interesting because as far as on one side of the scale, you're trying to save energy, conserve it, and get the best price to the consumer. On the other hand, if you have a powerful force that can dictate the pricing without competition, that's another issue.
Well, it is, Kenny. We've talked about this a little bit on the show before, and you and I are both small businessmen. As I would venture to say most of the people that probably listen to this podcast, or a lot of them. And, it's a problem we don't think about, which is you make all the money in the world like Google or Apple, and you get all these billions and billions of dollars. You create all this revenue. You have a tremendous growth curve. And if you're a publicly traded company, guess what? Wall Street wants you to continue along with that and make that happen over and over again. So I think it forces you sometimes to reach, and sometimes that's really good, and sometimes you just wind up stumping your toe. But I tell you, the folks at Google are pretty darn smart, so it'll be interesting to see. And I think it's a bigger trend, Kenny, that we've been tracking. We talked about it after we came back from Ibicon Realcomm, that all the people that are coming into our space now. So, we mentioned Google. We'll talk about Cisco a little bit later, Intel, If you go back to previous Control Talk Nows and previous posts on control trends, you can see where Ken and I have expressed some concern about how our industry, the building automation controls industry, is probably going to have a huge shakeup. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted.
All right, the last part of that post was a nice hot link to the Green Power Network, which provides news and information on green power markets and related activities. It provides up-to-date information on green power providers, product offerings, consumer protection issues, and policies affecting the green power market. So hit that link, and it's a really, really cool site, and it's just full of information.
Yeah, good stuff, Kenny. All right, what we have up next, Big Dog?
All right, next up we have Mr. Mike Welch and the Dolly Lighting Solution. This is part 2 of the interviews we had over there with Mike in England, and he talks about Dolly. This guy really is a passionate entrepreneur. He's done a lot of integration work and with Control Network Solutions. Tell us about the interview that you did there. It was a lot of fun.
Well, actually, Kenny, this is actually Mike is doing a product demo here on his Niagara Dolly's lighting solution. So it's great. You can see all the parts and pieces. Again, like you say, Mike is very, very passionate about what he does. We've sort of nicknamed him Mike Salvador Dolly Welch. And Mike does a great job in this presentation. So if you want to see what it's all about from a hardware perspective, from probably the best spokesperson on Dolly, check this video out because Mike really breaks it down, including showing all the wireless components. So Dolly is a solution that's been around for quite some time, Kenny. I think all the vogue here in the U.S. is LED lighting, and I think, Mike would say that that's maybe not always your best solution, especially if you have a Niagara front end. I think he would say and demonstrates in this particular video how easy it is to integrate and how much more control you can get using a Dolly solution. And we got some other pretty smart people that sort of concur with Mike a bit. Brian Turner from Control Code BN1 has come out and said that LED lighting might not always be your best option, primarily because it's expensive to do it that way. And Kenny, I think that is going to be our smart building tip of the week, which is before you go put LED lighting in your building, be sure to reach out to a controls professional and have them explore the option of controlling your lighting better by maybe using a Dolly lighting solution or something from WattStopper or Blue Ridge Technologies. So like I said, the trend right now is put the LED lights in, but as many say, it's expensive, and you could probably get as much, if not more, savings and a better return on your investment by looking at one of these other solutions.
Right, Eric, and another aspect of the Dolly integration, because lighting is clearly probably the most repetitive sponge that you can squeeze for energy savings. But the problem is that energy is future-proofing these energy solutions, so it's just not one-time fix. Particularly in commercial real estate where people move around. And Mike was saying too is that many times these investments that were good ideas are stranded because you didn't think about round 2, round 3, or customer 2, customer 3, or 5 years or 6 or 7 down the road, where they're going to expect you to rearrange your property, your space inside your property. So in Mike's opinion, that was really one of the most important things in these converged solutions. As changes are made within the building space, control over the Dolly lighting remains absolute. So it's a great post, and we have all those links here too, to include the link to the how to avoid stranded investments in intelligent buildings.
Okay, Kenny Smyers, and I got a big surprise for you because while you were in hair and makeup when you did the great interview with Micah Welch and Graham Turner, which you can see on Control Trends. We posted it about 3 weeks ago. It was a fantastic interview the man, the myth, the legend did with Mike and Graham Turner, who is one of the big wholesale distributors, integrator distributors in the UK. I had a chance to do a little interview with Mike Salvador Dolly and Graham Turner of my own. So, hey, Kenny, check this out. You haven't heard this yet, but I think you'll like it. We get the interview started. The man, the myth, the legend, he's in hair and makeup getting ready to do his interview with you guys. I know you guys are a little nervous. He is a bit temperamental, but you know what? He's just really smart. He's got a big brain. But before we get started, guys, there's a couple questions. So, Graham, you are a systems integrator. Mike, you obviously do wireless and so on and so forth. Wire versus non-wire. How's it going in England? From your perspective, Mike, what do you think?
I think there are people who love wireless and people who struggle with wireless. In all the time that we've been involved in wireless, usually there are people with elephant-like memories that manage to remember the last disaster they had, even if it was 20 years ago. And I have to spend my time suggesting or asking them, do they have a mobile phone? Just to clarify how really entrenched their feelings are with wireless. But for sure, there are those people who just love the idea. If you have a piece of copper and you connect one device to the other, you're done, and it's working. There is no doubt there is connection. Where in the world of wireless, it isn't simple. It's cool, but it isn't simple. And very often people leap into wireless and they don't do site surveys. They don't really check whether the technology is going to work in the environments and so on. So they don't do that from work, and then they get disillusioned or disappointed when it doesn't work. Graham.
So Graham, you are a distributor like Stromquist and over here. So can't wait for the man, the myth, the legend, to get to talk to you a little bit. He's got a lot of questions for you. How's his hair and makeup coming, by the way? At least he's got hair, so that's one of the big things we got going on. But now, as a distributor, you work with contractor partners, wireless, non-wireless.
Well,
what's your feel on it?
I'm going to just go back to what Mike said, that there is an age thing in this, and I've used wireless technology and I've used wired technology. From my perspective, they both work, but I've got this inbuilt, I prefer to see a connection at each end. Our engineers are preferring to use wireless now. A lot of them are going more to wireless, and I think, the mobile technology, as Mike's just indicated, that's bringing us forward, and it's allowing us to use that technology more and more and more.
In the U.S., it's kind of funny too. Even though the technology works really well, there still seems to be a preference for running hard wire. So I think that's going to change as the jobs become more competitive.
Do you think, for me, we've installed a lot of wireless sensors within a data center type environment, and because the racks move a lot, and this is my fear, when they move the rack, they move that sensor, and they move it to an area that it doesn't work anymore. And that's a failure, and that's a call to me to say your system's gone down. So it's also that educating of the end user as well. You've got this system, it works well, but there is an education process as well.
That's one of the trends we're seeing in the U.S. It seems like one of the roles of the distributor, and I'll ask you this too, you just mentioned it, is really not just educating your integrator partners, but educating the end users. The end users are starting to drive more and more of what gets specified and what gets put in. And the traditional way in the U.S. is consulting engineers. A lot of those guys haven't sort of updated the technology. They like working with the trained systems, and they have those relationships, and they may haven't upgraded their specs in quite some time. This is not all of them, but a lot of them still. So it really seems like the distributor's role is educating the user.
I find that very much. I mean, we still get involved with lots of clients. We've known lots of people for a long, long time, and if we can help the SIs that are purchasing our products by interfacing to the client as well, obviously it works. It does work well.
And that's true everywhere, actually. And I've been in events in America where leaders in the property industry there, they are telling their own peers that they actually have to now roll up their sleeves and get a little more savvy about technologies that are out there, solutions that are out there. It doesn't mean they have to understand every bit and byte of the solution, but they have to become a lot more aware to make sure that what they're being offered really does meet their requirements, and understand the pros and the cons clearly.
Hang on a second. No, Kenny, not the black suit. Wear the tan suit. No, don't perm your hair. Okay, no makeup, Kenny. No makeup. Okay. God. These superstar types, man, they're really hard to deal with sometimes. But that's another trend we're seeing in the U.S. too. Is more owners are getting involved, and it's not just the building chief, right? It's the chief financial officer, the CEO. There are a lot of different stakeholders. You guys seeing that over here as well?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm seeing is that quite often there's somebody at the top that wants something, i.e. it might be a lighted system or an interface to his computer room. He's looking to see what he can have put down there. Right. He's then going to go to someone to talk about this. Some solutions are then put in place, but the peers, the people lower down, they are going to be scared because someone's going to bring in a technology that they're going to have to manage. And there's that, there's a little bit of, we're not sure about this, but it's coming.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, and you're also seeing, the emergence increasingly now of energy managers, of sustainability managers and directors, and their corporate brief is to get their business looking right, and it's all about CO2 emissions, more efficient use of energy, better environments for their people. There's a lot of discussion about wellness of environments, particularly in the last 6 months I've seen related to lighting now, people getting to recognize quality of lighting. It impacts how well people feel, how well they operate, their productivity capabilities and so on. So you're getting these other people coming into organizations that are beginning to drive these issues and needing to learn and bringing new ideas.
Well, in the U.S., it's becoming part of the brand. I mean, it's part of your brand is to be sustainable. And so, like you say, the marketing companies are very concerned about this. A lot of times we'll see in the visualization tools have been becoming really big. I think you mentioned DG Box a minute ago, but visualization and being able to put that out to the clients in the building so they can see how much money the building is saving. And in the U.S. anyway, you have higher occupancy rates when you have a sustainability program and it's visible. Plus, you're able to charge higher lease rates.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's common here in the UK, and right across Europe, to be honest.
I think you guys might be farther ahead of us than that. I think you guys have been probably conserving energy a little bit longer than we have.
Well, I mean, I think we've got more issues with energy as a region because our costs per kilowatt are probably higher than yours, and there is no sign that they're going to even slow down their increase in cost. And we're also just about to join you guys, or at least some of the states in your part of the world, where we're going to be in a situation where power generation is not equal to power demand.
Yeah.
And so as soon as there's a small hiccup, a bit of weather comes along that causes a problem, we're going to be in load shedding mode with big users and so on. This is all new for us, and we've seen again the emergence in the last 2 years of these energy management businesses that are rocking up saying we will take responsibility, and the way they make money is how quickly they can get their load shed.
Yeah. So automated demand response.
Exactly. And of course, in order to do that, you need controller devices. You need, fundamentally, you could just turn the power off and send anybody home. Yeah. But that's not very good for business. So you need to be smart and clever about how you shed that.
Now, what about graphic tools here? You mentioned DG Box. Are they big over here?
Yeah, they're picking up.
And who else do you guys see a lot of?
Well, it's not so much just DG Box, it's DG Lux as well.
Right.
Because we embed that on top of Niagara.
Right.
But the visualization effects of the DG Logic package is very good.
Yeah.
It just adds a new dimension to visualization. Right. Not everybody wants it, but there's a lot of places where in reception areas, talking about energy, energy conservation, lots of green screens coming up, showing this is what we're doing today. We've saved X amount of kilowatt hours today. Well, you got it. It's all happening. So it's big. And it's going to get bigger.
I think so. I think that is such a key piece. We've got so many great players in the U.S., everybody from DG to J2 Innovations, another really big one over there, Active Logics, people like that. And then on top of that, one of the big trends we have in the U.S. is fault detection versus alarm, like rules-based stuff. SkySpark, John Betsy and guys.
Lots of
like
analytics going on.
Good.
Okay.
Now, so tell me about, as a distributor, tell me about your type folks that work in your organization. So what do you look for when you're hiring? Because, Kenny might, if I don't do a good job with this, he's going to come out of hair and makeup and he might fire me, so I might be looking for a job. So what would I have to do to be working for your company?
Well, the guys that work for us, one is they need to know their products.
Yep.
They need to know the client sites and what's expected from a product when it's installed on a site. But more importantly, if we're selling products to a solution integrator, when their guys call, we've got to have the answer.
Yeah.
We have to have the answer. So those guys that work for me need to be able to answer the phone or talk to these people and be confident, and so the guys that are phoning them, the support is good. It's crucial to our business.
So it's not like a 9-to-5 job. You got to do a lot of this on your own at home.
We're doing it. Yeah, it's non-stop.
And you mentioned you guys some IT people working.
Yeah, we got IT people. One of the things that we're seeing with IT people is that they come from a background where there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
It's where they're clever. Yeah. They've got to find somewhere to go with what they're doing. What we're finding in our industry is that we've got a whole huge market out there that's unexplored in terms of IT.
Yeah.
And we're using the products that these IT guys are used to in their own world.
Yeah, the
and
VPNs
then
and stuff
you've
like
got
that.
it, and they're now using that we're selling and distributing redundant servers, systems. It's all out there. It's required. It can't fail. It's got to work.
Have you say hi to Mark Peacock at Link Spring in the U.S.? So have you guys seen the Link Spring Cyberfilm product yet?
Yeah, I've had a look. Yeah,
it's pretty good
it's
stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, listen, guys, are you nervous about your interview with Ken? He really is a nice guy. He'll be okay.
Yeah.
He just looks too good.
Well, he does.
We're going to feel a little.
Well, we went from the video blog to the podcast, and the biggest comment I get on Control Trends is we want to look at Kenny, especially the women. The women want to look at it, and the husbands are kind of glad that we don't have them on the website.
I assume that's what all these ladies are doing over here.
Yeah, there's quite a crowd.
Did they fly with you, or they local?
They follow Kenny everywhere. We get off at the airport and they go, hey, it's the man, the myth, the legend. So, well, listen, guys, I appreciate the chance to get to talk to you before you go on to the interview with Ken. But hey, he's really a nice guy. So we'll catch up with you guys a little bit later on.
Okay, cool.
Great to chat with you.
Thanks, appreciate it, man. What do you think of that, Kenny Smyers?
Eric, you know how I just got to get everything right in front of that mirror, right? Sure. Listen, it's great stuff, and I'll tell you what. I just remind everybody that Graham is that Mike is taking this to the distributor level, and he's looking for distributor partners in America too, by the way. And Graham was the first distributor in the UK, so that's kind of a benchmark.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to get in on this. You can reach out. We'll have a link to get hold of Mike at Control Network Solutions. I think it's .co.uk, but we'll put that link in there so you can track him down. But yeah, we've got him all over Control Trends. Mike is our quasi reporter from the UK, and we'll get Mike back on for future episodes of Control Talk Now. All right, Mike Salvador Dali. Have a good weekend. We'll catch up with you later. All right, Kenny, what do we have up next?
Next up, Eric, is Belimo America's communication update. This came out in the middle of last week, and shows the beautiful corporate center. It's a nice picture of Mount Belimo in the new facility. Belimo America headquarters has moved to its new facility located at 33 Turner Road, Danbury, Connecticut. The move has gone as planned, and Belimo is fully operational again. They apologize for any inconvenience that may have occurred during the transition from the old facility to the new facility, but now they're up and at 'em. And as a reminder, Eric, we're hoping to get up there as soon as possible, because this is the facility. This is the most modern, state-of-the-art, roboticized manufacturing of direct-coupled actuators to date. So it's going to be very exciting. But from the pictures we see and from the briefings we got from the Belimo folks back in the in Madrid at the EZIO conference, this is something to see, and they've got some really, really good technologies up their sleeve that they're getting ready to release in the North American market.
Oh, excited about that, Kenny. I think we're going to try and get up there first quarter next year. I spoke with some Belimo folks earlier in the week, and they're still moving in. They definitely want to have us up to do a video tour of that facility. But we're thinking first quarter might make the most sense, maybe after the 2014 Control Trends Awards. And yeah, it was great. Special shout out to Chris Jones and Tom Denzer, who we met in Madrid, Spain at the EZIO World event, as well as all our other friends that we met at that event. We'll talk a little bit more about them in the show. All right, Kenny Smyers, what do we have up next?
All right, next up, Eric, is a very serious topic, very serious post. Very informative post. First of all, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we appreciate the collaboration we get from other members of the industry, to include the October edition of Automated Buildings, where an article written by Mark Peacock, Vice President of Marketing for Link Spring and Connex Energy, goes into some of the great detail on cybersecurity and gets us up to date on what's happening. And this was also part of the smart building tip of the week too, because security now is getting too serious. Just yesterday, coming back on the plane, I read that Kmart got hit. So now we're looking at, JP Morgan, 76 accounts may have been exposed. Home Depot, 56 million accounts. TJ Maxx, 45.6 million, and it just goes on and on and on. So it's and Target, of course, had just their awful experience last year. So we have not conquered the security issues. They're only growing. And why don't you give us a couple of, just what's your take on it? Where are we now? With all the information we're providing, do you think that the building owners and the facility managers and the integrators are taking this as serious as they should, or we have a lot of room to go?
Well, the fact that people like Kmart and JP Morgan and people like that are getting hacked, It's one or two things, Kenny. Either they're not taking it seriously and not taking the proper steps, or more daunting is they are taking those steps and the hackers are just getting that much better. So either way, it's something that just has to be addressed. And I think from our industry standpoint, if you look at it from our point of view, being the building automation control space, Kenny, it gets back to the fact that if you have a building automation control system that is, can become a port that hackers can get in through. So it's just one particular entry point. Now, I don't know, and I don't know whether you know or not right now, how they got into the Kmart system or the JP Morgan. My hunch is that probably wasn't through a building automation control system portal. But if you look at what some of the solutions that people are coming up with, I know George Thomas, Contemporary Controls, we mentioned him. He has, some VPNs and some things that he works with. If you look at LinkSpring, Kenny, they have a really elegant solution with their Cyber Pro device, which essentially shuts down that port unless somebody with secure credentials the system needs to get out or somebody needs to get into the system remotely. It just keeps that port shut down. So, so you got people like that. You got people like Fred Gordy from McKinney's, who is, a cybersecurity evangelist from the building automation control space. You got Billy the Kid Rios, who is on top of it. So I think we got really smart people from our side of it that are aware of these ramifications. And I think on the building automation security side, there are solutions that are available, but people have to take advantage of them. So I think to answer your question, people might be taking it very seriously in terms of different types of ways in, but they might not be aware of the fact that their building automation control system could be a path in, and they need to make sure that they have that port secured as well.
Right on, Eric. And another really fabulous source and expert is Mark Peacock. And in fact, LinkSpring has a newsroom now. And so we put a link on our post that takes you right to the LinkSpring Cyber Pro newsroom. And there they have some very important information about the magnitude of the internet-connected critical control system, the question and answer, 2014 cyber attacks becoming a greater threat to refinery control systems. They set up a decoy, and hackers came from Beijing and Chattanooga. It goes on, and 5 truths about cybersecurity. So some great information and recommendations. And finally, probably the most important too, is the connection to the Homeland Security site. And this gives you, the up-to-date recommendations, warnings, cautions from Homeland Security.
Well, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West, isn't it, Kenny? It's a whole new frontier. It's got its villains. It's got its heroes. So it seems like, on our side, we got guys like Mark Peacock, who might be like Sheriff Wyatt Earp or something like that, right? We got Billy the Kid Rios. So we got some good guys on our side, too. It's going to be interesting stuff. Now, Mark Peacock, I have a big bone to pick with you. So, Kenny, I hate to air dirty laundry on Control Talk, but I just can't bite my tongue. So, Mark, I've got real problems with you, man. Your New York Giants, what they did to my Atlanta Falcons last week, we just can't have that, buddy. We can't have it. So, all kidding aside, the LinkSpring Cyber Pro is up for Control Trends Awards, product award. A bunch of folks from LinkSpring are up for awards, as is, we mentioned our sponsor this week, Contemporary Controls and George Thomas and his crew. So be sure to go to the voting ballot and take a minute, nominate your favorites, and let's make sure that everybody gets their due this year at the 2014 Control Trends Awards. All right, Kenny Smyers, what do we have up next?
All right, Eric, next up we have Control Trends People. That's a great name for a great post, and it's Mr. Dan Flaherty from Johnson Controls. He stopped by the Stromquist facility last week, and that was a very cool interview. And again, Johnson Controls up for, I think, 15 Control Trends Awards, products, people, and tell us a little bit about your Dan Flaherty interview.
Well, Dan is one of the Johnson executives. Johnson, Kenny, I know you know as well as others, they have really good executives. Dan runs the region that we're in. We're Stromquist & Company as a Johnson Controls distributor of the FX product line, as well as all the refrigeration products. well-run company Johnson is. I think you got up in your area. We actually met him at the 2013 Control Trends Awards. King Thomas, I think was his name.
King Thomas and Kevin Myers. Kevin Myers is our regional guy.
Some very, very sharp guys. So Dan is just another of the really, really great executives that Johnson Controls had. Yeah, he stopped by the place, and Johnson, very innovative. If you've been following Control Trends, you know that Chris Lane, Matt Krieger have been on with Johnson Controls Tech Talk, which because Kenny and I have been traveling so much, we've been a little bit remiss, but we'll get back on that Tech Talk here soon. But, I had a great chance to talk to Dan about a bunch of subjects, including Johnson's nominees for the 2014 Control Trends Awards and the Johnson Controls 2015 Business Conference that will be happening in Orlando, Florida. Kenny, you'll remember we covered it last year, and we were both pretty impressed, right?
Sure was. Because, again, it's there's a certain expense associated with these trips, but when you make it that rewarding, in other words, not only are you getting trained on the newest and latest products and software from Johnson, you're getting additional educational benefits. They covered the subjects that we all need to know a little bit more about as business people, namely Generation X.
That's a Generation Y's, baby.
Yeah, I know. Disconnect, and the iPhone and bring your own technology to work, or bring your own device. So that was a really good thing. They also did stuff on personnel and employment contracts and relationships with, from an organizational standpoint, great business stuff. And then, of course, how to grow the market. Johnson has invested in the future. And as the economy continues to pick up, Johnson has the products and the services and the solutions looming very close by to fill those, to meet those applicational requirements.
No, it was great stuff. Like you said, it was really, really useful stuff that we all got to learn. I think that was one of the big takeaways that we heard from a bunch of people was they got a lot of good stuff that could affect their business. Everything from what you just mentioned to, the effect of social media on our businesses and putting together a social media plan. This year, maybe they'll have us come talk about how we use social media, but who knows? But great conference. We will keep you posted on Control Trends with the latest on that so you can know when and how to sign up. And, of course, they had a really good time there, too. You can see a little video of Dan riding in a dune buggy, so some good times there. So Johnson had a nice blend of mixing business and pleasure. And a special shout out to Rick Van Buren, who put together the conference last year. I think Rick's going to be doing it again this year. Great job, Rick. And, of course, to Chris Eichmann, who is up for the 2014 Control Trends Executive of the Year. All right, big dog, what do we have up next?
All right, Eric. Next up, we have Alpert Uzmesler from BASSG Graphics. And I'll tell you, he's one of the hardest working guys in the industry. He's at every trade show. He's out there doing everything he can to promote his products. And he's a smart guy. He's a very talented guy. He gave us a demonstration and a visualization presentation on his software, and also the thermostats that are manufactured in Turkey. And he's repping those and distributing those here in the States. And he's looking for, again, business partners. So great contact. A little bit about BASSG. It was founded in 2004. And they specialize in building automation technologies and BAS analytics that they deliver to reduce energy, and facility management energy costs. So they do a lot of stuff right. They have a easy to deploy multi-system software tool. They do OEMing of products. They have multiple distributors across the country. So BASSG can be a one-stop provider, everything in the BAS world. So well done, Alpert, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next show.
Yeah, good stuff. And Alpert is up for, and his company are up for Control Trends Awards. Alpert's software falls in with DG Logic, J2 Innovation, SkySpark, Active Logic. He's another one of those players in that space that just does gorgeous graphics and provides great data in an easy to understand format so that you can make better decisions as a business or building owner. All right, Kenny, what next up? What's all this? The Office of Energy is involved again?
I'll tell you what, we're on their distribution list for information and news releases, so we will continue to inform and enlighten the Control Trends community on what our official, Building America, the U.S. Department of Energy's official releases come out weekly. This week we had, actually it was the October 2, the October 2014 issue of the U.S. Department of Energy's Building America Update newsletter, which we received October 10th. So that's why I got a little confused here. But in this edition, they have the 2014 Housing Innovation Awards, which honor 28 industry leaders who are helping to significantly reduce the energy costs of U.S. homes. They have registration for the 2015 Race to Zero Student Design Competition, a host of other things. There's probably like 5 or 6 more entries there. But the important thing is that the Control Trends communities has these links. Come to Control Trends, link up, see what's going on with the update. The complete newsletter is available. But they also, once you get into the, once you go behind the curtains on this thing, there's a lot in that Building America program. And there's something for everybody, every professional in the building management, anybody in the space, whether it's a residential, commercial, industrial. The government is putting out one program after the other, one award, one program to give people monetary incentives to help create the innovation necessary to bring the American utility grid online quicker, or make it smarter quicker, and give everybody a little piece of of incentive so that you can upgrade your house, make your house more efficient, make your building more efficient. So this should attract everybody, and I think we're generating a lot of re-clicks through the articles that we're putting on there, but we'll continue to post these because they're coming every week. There's something going on, and it's just a matter of time before it falls right into your sweet spot as a business person.
Yeah, absolutely, Kenny. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. Okay, Kenny, we're getting down near the end of it now. Tell us about the last post.
All right, next up we have Realcomm's Jim Young asks Cisco's back in the business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that post?
Well, Kenny, I tell you what, that was, again, we were covering the Realcomm Ibicon show for Control Trends for Jim Young and Howard Berger. And we're sitting at one of the main conferences, and the people up on stage were a who's who of the big players. And one of the themes that we were tracking, especially after that meeting, was new players coming into the marketplace and some of the big players coming in. And I apologize in advance. The video was a little bit shaky, but when Jim Young asked Cisco's Rick Hubricks, "Are you back?" I just whipped the camera out, and again, it's a little shaky. The video is a little shaky, so I apologize about that. But I think Rick's response was definitely worth a listen. And the first thing he refers to, Kenny, is the mediator. So do me a favor, tell me a little bit about Rick. I know you've researched him a little bit, and then tell me about your experience with the mediator, and then we'll continue on with this post.
Well, okay, to break that down, first let's just talk about Rick Hubricks. In some circles, he's Dr. Rick Hubricks. In fact, he has a website, www.rickhubricks.com, and it's about industry transformation. This guy is an incredibly deep thinker, speaker, talker. He's really, really a smart guy. Real estate, smart and connected communities. He's taken over Cisco's rule there, and I'll go over it, but I just want to tell you something that comes right out of October 5th. He has to be or not to be, says Prince Hamlet, as he considers his death and suicide. He laments pains and unfairness of life, but recognizes the alternative might be still worse. In the animal kingdom, the rule is eat or be eaten. In the human kingdom, define or be defined, suggests American psychologist Thomas Sass. This is what the taxi industry today must be thinking. Or is it already too late for them? But he makes this comment, has the alternative to the unfairness of life, thus the end of an industry, already become a reality? And this is it's right off his website, Industry Transformation. But that's the caliber of guy he is. And
you think he's talking about the building automation controls industry as it is today?
Yes, indeed.
To be or not to be, as we contemplate our suicides, huh?
Well, I think what
through
that
ignorance, maybe.
Imagine industry transformation is his specialty, and he's in charge of Cisco's venture into the building space. Okay, so his current position, by the way, is Vice President of Industry Transformation and General Manager of IoE Smart and Connected Communities at Cisco Canada. So he says yes to that question. Yes, Cisco's here to stay. And just going over the mediator real quick, the mediator came on pretty much, for us, it was about 2002. So
let's put that in perspective, Kenny. So Cisco's first, when Jim Young asked if they're back, Cisco's first foray, at least the ones that we're aware of, was they came in with a product called the Mediator, and they came in and they tried to transform or change the industry with the Mediator, and you were right in the middle of that.
Well, they did things first. Back when we didn't have the drivers and didn't have the third party support that we had. The mediator was basically a computer on steroids, and it had incredible normalization capabilities. It could take it had the drivers that everybody needed at the time, the into the various train drivers, and they were first, as I know, or first opportunity we had when we were really in challenging integration, where we're trying to leverage the existing networks, leverage the existing products that were still very much in operation in these school districts or whatever, the mush market. And the mediator came in and basically rescued us in a lot of very difficult situations where back when we had, I don't want to say wars, but we had very strong competition and they weren't pleasantly terminated. Some of these school districts had no choice but to use the contractors that could bring mediator capabilities. And of course, Niagara solved a great deal that in retrospect, but certainly the mediator played its role. But then all of a sudden, they were bought out by Cisco. They changed to Ingram Micro through their distribution channel. So they kind of just really usurped all the relationships that we had with Richard Zeta and the mediator. Cisco came in and just chopped us off. As far as the two-step distribution relationship was over, ended, and end of life to the mediator. Well,
so a little bit of Richard III action, right? Just destroy your enemies. Forget about the existing channel. Just annihilate them.
I don't know exactly. I mean, you don't really hear, what the true or the basis. What Rick did here was he gave us some insight to what they thought. At first, it seemed like a good idea. They were going to put the mediator, reduce its size, its physical size, to basically a blade inside of a blade server, and just take over that function. They thought HVAC was something that they could get right into, and like he said, so they're back. Yes, they're here to stay. He described to us a little bit about Cisco's options. They either make, buy, or partner their way into various markets, but they see this as $1 billion market, and they're players. And instead of using the buying the product, which was a mediator, and making it again, they chose to partner with companies like Honeywell, Johnson, Schneider, Rockwell, and Intel. But they see the tremendous opportunity in the Internet of Everything, particularly with focus on Internet of Things, with the incredible contextualization going on in every building space, from residence to the largest commercial buildings, and the cloud services that Cisco can provide. So they're basically turning into leaders. They have 4 Internet of Everything centers of excellence to accelerate the co-creation of the future real estate smart community advancements, and they're taking us to the next level. And
well, Kenny, you just said a word that I think might be the linchpin or the key to existing people surviving. You said co-create or cooperate. And, what's encouraging about this, and by the way, Cisco was there, but Intel was also there too. So you had Intel, Apple, Google, IBM's already been there. Dell Computer, sort of made it known that they are going after the systems integration business where they want to be an installing integrator with their stuff. So they're out there. We talked at length about this right after the conference, Kenny. I don't think anything's changed at all, but I think it's something we have to be aware of. But, cooperating, the fact that they, want to partner with, you better figure out what your value is and how you're going to play in this new reality, because it is going to change. And you better bring something to the table, or I think you're just going to get annihilated. It's as simple as that.
Well, you're so right. And again, we're talking to ourselves, but we're having a conversation, with the community that we're in. But just right now, they're talking about the taxi cab business. Just the industry itself is being basically torn to shreds by the Uber.
Yeah.
And in Germany, the federal government there just decided Uber was not illegal, and they are allowed to use their services. So they're allowed to exist, they're allowed to compete. And of course, this is just to talk about disruption. It's not really a technology, but it's a disruptive service now that the taxi industry has never faced this kind of a threatening challenge. It's like what the emails did to the post office, and what what e-zines are doing to magazines, and what we're going to see it happen to us. Look at what everybody said. They're never going to pump their own gas, and yet now it's all self-serve. Nobody was ever going to give up using tellers at banks, but now it's all ATMs. Or 90% of the consumer transactions are done through self-service, either online or at ATM. So we're going to go through that same kind of disruption. We just can't feel it. It doesn't define itself so quickly and easily for us, but it's coming. Yes.
No, completely agree. So one of the takeaways I have, Kenny, is I think I would benchmark, and maybe we can start posting some of Rick's post on control trends. I tell you what, if this guy is an expert in this and he's leading the charge at Cisco, I think there are probably some clues along the way. And I, for one, am going to start reading his blog, and maybe we should start posting some of his stuff on control trends too. And heck, maybe we can even come on control trends and talk. I think what would be really interesting from a guy like his perspective is, as an existing player in the marketplace, be you a systems integrator, be you a systems integrator, distributor, or a manufacturer, how can you participate and how can you prepare yourself for this change in such a way that you create enough value that somebody like a Cisco, a Google, an Apple, or an Intel wants to partner with you as opposed to just bypass you, which is probably what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, and then like you say, the link takes you. We will continue provide more insight from Rick, because going to that actual link, it takes you right to the taxi driver situation and in the competition. Now the Uber's kind of cleared the way. You have Lyft, LYFT coming in, and basically the taxi cab drivers are feeling literally their business being cannibalized as they stood outside of airports in their 50 cab lines and had their own cab lanes and everything. You're seeing somebody coming and just shortcutting all that. They got everybody in society prepared, and everybody in New York needs to use service, but all of a sudden it's moved to cheese, and it's a $20 billion worldwide. I'm trying to look at some of the information provided, but the total value of that market is incredible, and there's going to be a fight for that cheese. There's going to be. Well,
I think there is, Kenny, and as my friend, we've talked about him on the in the past. My teacher, Marshall Thurber, one of the great thinkers, studied with Buckminster Fuller and studied with Edwards Deming, the guy that brought quality to Japan, used to say there are two types of change. There's structural change and there's cyclical change. And things like the stock market going up and down or energy prices are all going to be cyclical. Structural change is something when the typewriter came along, when the computer came along, didn't matter how good your typewriter was, you were going to lose. And I think the question, or at least my theory, is that we're in the midst of some structural changes that are going to happen. And I think in the taxi cab industry, I'm not sure Uber is a structural change, Kenny. I think that it might be a cyclical change, but what they did was they used social media, they used technology to create, to bypass and create a better way to do things. And I'm not so sure that the taxi industry could not regroup and figure out a way around it. And one of the things that was sort of interesting, I was reading an article in Fortune magazine because I thought Amazon was a structural change for a long time, and I think Amazon's hugely vulnerable right now in terms of once that Amazon tax law kicks in, you have to pay taxes. As a distributor, I'm feeling a lot better about that because and also as a consumer. And I've given the example in the past, Kenny, about, I've had to buy expensive camera equipment. I typically have bought it online, maybe through Amazon, because I could save the tax, the 8 to 10% tax. Well, now with the tax law, Amazon is having to charge tax. So I now go to my local distributors because I can get technical support there. I had the personal relationships there. So whether or not Uber is a structural change or a cyclical change, I don't know. Whether or not this whole thing with Cisco and Google coming in is going to be a structural or a cyclical change, I don't know. But I can tell you this, we all have to pay attention to this because it is going to change and affect our businesses.
Well, Eric, I had an opportunity. I was working off my notes previously, but now I'm actually on Rick's site, and you're so right. But I think this is going to be a structural change. There's nothing's going to be put back together ever again. But he tells us now, I'm reading directly from that post, and the taxi cab industry, I thought it was the 20 billion reference, but actually Uber, the startup came from Take the World by Storm. Its 5 short years of existence is now valuated at $20 billion.
Wow.
20 billion. So that's where that $20 billion reference came, not the industry for taxis. That's just Uber's value. But what Rick is saying, that the transformation of the taxi process and industry as we know it that Uber wrapped its technology around the power of many, the human network, and has built a process in the business that takes advantage of shifts in demand. I need a ride and supply. I have a car and I will take you. It has redefined the taxi service as we know it. Skipping down a couple of things, this is where I think you and I are trying to really, we're stabbing at it, but here's a good, serious consolidation of thought that is about what we're talking about. But in some places, the lobby against Uber, Lyft alike is working for now. Certain countries, certain communities are denying Uber from setting up shop in their towns. It is the fear of unknown, the uncertainty of unproven business models, and the unknown risks that may come with it. Okay, so now the lobbies are beginning, and they're actually going through the political processes to stop progress, innovation, invention, and it's not going to happen. Now, what Rick was saying, that we are now in an app society, and the next big innovation might come out of your basement because there's no permissions here anymore. There's no barriers of entry like there used to be. Like
control trends.
So, Seth Godin said, we're not subject to the tyranny of being selected anymore. So he's saying that they're all about the within today's app economy and growing sharing culture, we see that no existing and proven supply-demand business model is safe from disruption. The established industries, governments, and their just antiquated procurement processes, and consumers, etc., can either step up and define today's world or have it defined for them by the 30-year-olds from their kitchen tables and internet connections.
Well, Kenny, I definitely going to track this guy. I tell you what, I would love to, and we got to talk to, there was another guy from Cisco that on the session that you moderated who was absolutely brilliant, but I would love to meet this Rick Hubricks here. He sounds absolutely brilliant. And Kenny, so here's where I sort of land on whether this is a structural or a cyclical change. I'm not sure because the technology is always going to upgrade. So I think the Internet of Things is definitely a structural change. Let me give you an example. My wife, and she will deny this till the cows come home, but I'm convinced that she moves my wallet and my keys and stuff like that. So one of the biggest things that happens to me is I go down, because I just know I always put my wallet and my keys and things like that in the same spot. And they're never where I supposedly leave them. Now, she swears she never moves them. And to be honest with everybody out there, she probably doesn't. I get so tied up and hyper concentrating that sometimes I just forget about them. But so this morning I wake up and she says, I got you a gift. She ordered it on Amazon. And Kenny, they're these little tiles, okay? They're tiny tiles that you can hook to your keys, or you can put in your wallet, or I could put on my camera equipment, or on my luggage, or on my phone. Well, actually, if I put it on my phone, it'd be kind of messed up. But essentially what they do is there's an app that goes on your phone, and if you can't find your keys, it tells you where your keys are. It tells you where your wallet is. So she's tired of hearing me crab about her moving the stuff, so she gets these little tiles for me that she's going to put on my keys and my wallet and all the other stuff I accuse her of moving. So the whole Internet of Things is a huge structural change. You'll never go back. I mean, if this thing works the way I think it's going to work, I'm going to put one of those tiles on everything I own, my cameras, my luggage, everything. So essentially it just allows you never have to lose anything again, and these little bitty tiles. So that is, to me, a structural change. You're never going to want to go back off of that. Now, what does it change from? In this particular case, it's a technology upgrade because I'm not replacing anybody, right? Because before it was just me, it was manual labor. I wasn't paying anybody to find my wallet or my keys. But you expound that out to things that you do pay people to do, and now you have the makings of structural changes.
Well, there's two things that I'm ready to say. First, the guy's name that I was working with was William McGowan. He was director of Smart Connected Real Estate at Cisco Systems Canada. And, again, he said that many people consider Cisco as the fourth utility in their building. And his 330-300 analysis was a very, very interesting concept of how Cisco helps save money inside of a facility. But Cisco's doing exactly that. Cisco's doing the counting of all those IoT, IoE, everything. And there's a great movement to put those tags on every single thing that's being manufactured, because now they can make them so small that they're little tags now that you can peel off and put on anything. anything from your shoes to your.
But Kenny, you're right. But that's what Intel said. Intel said they've already put those tags in, like in the chips that are going in the equipment and stuff like that.
But you have to be able to, like anything else, you need actionable data. So you need the data to be relevant when it's important. So when we're talking about the structural change and the cyclical change, to me, if you didn't have something before and now you're using it, it didn't have to necessarily replace something, but it now defines how you do things. I think.
Well, the structural change might be, Kenny, and now I'm talking out the other side of my mouth here, because now the structural change might be, and this is what really caught my attention. You hear Rick in this interview allude to it a little bit. But Intel, at least my recollection of Intel, they were pretty blatant about the whole thing. That it's already the information's already in the chips. And we looked at Daikin. I mean, you also had Kevin Fasinelli from Daikin was on your panel, and they're talking about the chip and the information's already in there. So here comes the possible structural change, Kenny. Here's the big question: can they just bypass the controllers? In other words, can they just take this information right out? Right off of the chips, because their chips are going in Honeywell controllers and Delta controllers and Siemens controllers already. So will the controller become a thing of the past?
Well, okay, it's not magic. So again, to push air and water through, you have to have you have to have a combination of things. But yes, absolutely. In fact, we won't have to talk around this anymore, because I think what we're doing is we're driving the silver stake into our own hearts. But through this consistent acknowledging of the change. Intel said that they have already done it. Daikin already has them shipping on, up to I think 250 ton rooftops, or maybe it was 5 to 250 ton rooftop units. But Daikin already has this. There's already an intelligent stack out there that we had posted. Not many people read about it. We actually had a person comment on the controller that Intel made and said it's big and bad. And so what happens is this thing's going to go through channels, and I guess our biggest problem is we don't have an enlightened crystal ball channel tracker that tells us where we're being superseded. But I think our show here can continue to do that, and other people's inputs help us keep a kind of a tracking, a radar screen and blipping. And what we saw with those blips, Jim Young brought us to that radar screen that said blip, 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 blip. There's going to be very serious structural changes that are occurring. That their impact won't be felt probably for another 5 to 7 years. But once it comes out, that's going to redefine the business that we're in. It's going to redefine how you replace controls, how you connect to controls, where you buy them, where you sell them. We might be still able to work in an aftermarket capacity, but we're not going to be part of the local bidding, because everything's going to come in probably pre-supplied.
Already done. So here might be the saving grace, and I'm probably talking out of school here. This is all conjecture on my part, but because you know who else suffers from that, I think, would be the controls manufacturers, right? The Schneider Electrics, the Siemens, all the people that manufacture controls, they could get bypassed too. They could wake up and be out of the picture. So I think if we have a saving grace, Kenny, it might be that companies like Siemens and Johnson Controls and Schneider Electric buy a lot of of Intel chips and processors, right, to go in their controllers. So it could be that those guys get together and go, you guys do this, we're switching chip manufacturers, right? So maybe there's some leverage there, but it seems to me that the one thing we all have in common is we are all in jeopardy. And when I talk about in common, about the manufacturers and the distributors and the systems integrators, I think, are still going to be involved, one way or another. But we're talking about the supply chain here of the products, is that we're both in jeopardy of being bypassed.
Absolutely. But again, if we stay fixed in a fixed position, we certainly have that. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. We will be bypassed. But I think what you said earlier, or what I wanted to say, was that we're evolving too. And by keeping track of the trends, as we see them coming, every day we're reacting just a little bit more. We're improving our thought process and our decision making, because we now can see that certain things are dead-ended. The strong arming and all that used to be kind of the way it was, the exclusivities, may or may not go away, but because of that Amazon law, that actually strengthens the two-step distribution channel, like you mentioned, and makes that distributor, the knowledgeable integrating distributor, more valuable, because now you're not getting a 5 to 7 to 8% discount of buying out of state and not paying that tax. So you're right. There's some corrections going on in the market, but the evolving is critical.
Now, Kenny,
on top of stuff.
No, I think evolving and becoming useful. But here's a question I have for you. Now, I know you're a military historian. You were in the military. So looking throughout history, when the invaders come in, right? I mean, how do you survive? I mean, you can fight it, but if you're not going to fight it, and it's clear that they're coming in and they're going to own your company for the foreseeable future, it seems like your strategy's got to be, how can I make myself useful to them so I can be part of the new regime? Because I don't think there's any question. I think that the invaders are at the gate, and
well, I mean, if you're going to try to, a lot of people do that analogy, economic warfare versus real military warfare. But the number one goal, the number one thing, the number one message in your mind is to survive. So once you survive, then you start to get options. We just finished that great book called "The Obstacle Is the Way," and in that book,
Ryan
they actually
Holiday.
address that. So what you do is you make that you settle each day under its own strengths, weaknesses, merits, and concerns, so that what you do is you survive, and then you react, and then again, everything goes through. Even the great dynasties, civilizations, go up and down. They can't sustain themselves. They overextend their economy of scale. They overextend their ability to provide everything to all things, and they collapse. So what you do is you play for the next collapse and then the next thing you do is to get out of the way of heavy weights and fast moving objects. That's part of the survival thing. So, and then friendships, alliances, come up with, like you say, change your value stream. What do you provide in this equation that's important? What can you do that they can't do? Where do all the disconnects occur? Where does technology finally meet reality? And there's not, and the consumers aren't happy. So I think that's one thing to do too, is always stay in touch. Whoever's holding the hand of the customer ultimately wins that round. You might not win, the battle, but you'll win that particular round.
No, well said, Kenny. Well said. And sort of cycling back around a point that something that proves your point there. I was reading in Fortune magazine. The book industry has just been decimated by Amazon, and Amazon's not growing very much. But there is one counterexample to that. There's a company, it's brick and mortar, called Half Price Books. And they're growing like at 25-30% a year. They're brick and mortar, but it's, used books that they're selling. And they're kicking not only everybody, they're kicking Amazon's butt, plus all the other bookstores who are trying to compete directly with Amazon. So I think you're right. I think you have to be willing to redefine and reinvent yourself. And I think you do that based on what the customers are wanting. And I think it's an interesting dilemma, and I think we're sort of up against it, Kenny. So we're going to have to probably end this conversation for now. But let's continue on. And any of our listeners, please reach out in comments. Let us know what you think about this. I think this is probably the biggest trend any of us will see in our lifetimes in the controls industry. So we're going to track this. But the big players are coming into the game, and how they'll play and how they'll affect all of us remains to be seen. So good stuff there, Kenny. And I tell you what, before we hop off today, anything else you want to say on that before we hop off?
No, I think we got a little bit off the deep end there, but it's okay.
Hey, we got to get off the deep end occasionally. So I want to thank Ken Sinclair. He gave me a sort of an idea for control trends. So we've created a new place here called the Resource Center Training Videos. So if you click on that link, we'll be adding to it. But essentially what we want to do there is we're going to go call through all the manufacturers' videos that we can find. We're going to put up on the Training Resource Center. So you'll be able to click and find Honeywell videos, EasyIO videos, or whatever. So anytime they put a video out, we're going to put it up in the Training Resource Center. And the hope there being that it'll be very easy for you to locate the training videos that you need. All right, big dog. Well, listen, now on a happier note, or maybe not a happier note, who the Steelers play today?
We're playing the Cleveland Browns.
Dude, are you guys going to win that one, or is that?
Yeah, we're going to win. Of course we are.
All right. Well, good deal.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you what, NFL, man, anything can happen. So I like to say that, and I picked them on my polls and everything. So go Steelers, but Cleveland's got a great team. They got a lot of talent. They've got, I think, 8 first-round draft picks on offense and defense. So as far as the NFL goes, they got probably one of the most star-studded teams in the league. It's just, when they put it together, watch out.
Well, I tell you what, they do, and Johnny Manziel's not playing him. Wow, what a awesome day in college football yesterday. Lots of upsets there. Seems like the state of Mississippi is the place to be if you're a college football fan right now. And Kenny, I tell you what, I'm going to hop off here. I got to go see my Falcons. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks again to our sponsor, Contemporary Control. Thanks to Mike Salvador Dali and Graham Turner for their great interview. And thanks to the man, the myth, the legend. So have a great week and stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smack.